Hi, Facebook fans. Welcome to Cyber Advisor Live. I'm here with James.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
James, we're going to really quick plug our Amazon Echo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I plugging or are you plugging?
You're plugging. You do it really well.
All right. Like, share, and comment on this Facebook Live video, and you will be entered into a drawing for an Echo Dot. Reach out to us for a network assessment. You get 5 free entries into that drawing also. I'm going to tell you right now that I think that without a doubt, this will change your life. I actually I know it'll change your life in general, but it will. I actually tied it to my calendar.
Yeah.
For work, and I have it in my office.
Yeah.
So I can say what's next on my calendar, and they can say you've got to go to the Cyber Advisor Live broadcast and show up here on time. So
nice.
Enter into our contest, like, share, and comment on this video. Call us up for a free network assessment, or comment and ask us for a free network assessment, and we'll go ahead and get this out to you.
Great. Wonderful. So we're going to do a little bit different. Today, we're going to go ahead and show a video, a quick 2-minute video, James, on how one of our solutions can actually stop ransomware.
Right. Yeah, we definitely will. And Natasha's like nodding her head at us from behind the camera. I think she wants to say something.
We can't do the video. We'll post the video then.
Oh, we're going to blame Todd and Natasha for that one.
We are. I'll take a hit on that. We'll post the video after our session today.
Now we're going to come up with 3 minutes of filler material.
We are.
I heard Todd's a good singer.
Yeah. Yeah. On the road again. I haven't seen that on the road again.
So one of the things I know that we've been talking about was we were talking about different things that you can do for your IT security. We talked about ransomware and why it's important, the cost associated with it in your organization. We talked about what you can kind of look for as far as potential avenues for ransomware to make its way into your network. And then we really wanted to kind of go through this week and talk about what are the different layers of security coming into your organization that you can add. How can you get those layers of security added into an existing infrastructure, and how can a partner like DataTech help you as you want to add those layers in? Because it's really, I had a client that I met with the other day, and they were asking me about a file server. Really good kind of anecdote. And I said, they said, do I really need, it wasn't a file server, they said, do I really need to have a Windows server in my organization? And I kind of went through with them and told them, I said, you don't necessarily need a full-blown server like what we all think of, but you do need something that handles your security controls, a security appliance, which we do sell security appliances.
Right.
And so as we talked about that, they asked me why. So why do I need that? I do everything in the cloud. And one of the comments I made to him was, it's the equivalent of having an alarm system in your house. You can think of like your firewall that comes into your organization as your house. It's the walls of your house. That's really your first layer of security, right? Mm-hmm. That's what keeps people out, keeps the bad guys out.
Right.
Well, then when they make it into your network, there's an alarm, right? And that alarm has a keypad. Think of the server kind of like your keypad in a way. It's going to let you enable and disable the alarm. It's going to alert you if somebody there is bad that's already made it into your house. And so that was why we kind of talked a little bit about that. So all these different layers of security that we'll talk about today, they all feed off of one another. They all help in one way or another, and they're all meant to do a specific purpose. They're not meant to be this, hey, I can't just say, hey, I've got this blue box here, I'm going to plug it into my network, and now I'm secure.
Right.
As much as we'd like to think that that's the case, that's not the case, because it doesn't take care of all of the different elements inside your organization.
And that's why we use a layered security approach.
Right. So
it's kind of like putting bars on your windows and everything.
Yeah,
just the alarm.
Right. So if we go back to a few months ago, we talked about Sophos firewalls and next generation firewalls. Looking at that layer of security. That layer of security that's your primary what comes into the organization. It's scanning that network traffic as it comes in. It's scanning the traffic as it goes out. It's looking for patterns of traffic that don't look like their typical business uses. It's also scanning any of the data that's coming in out of the organization too. Things that things that people are downloading, websites people are accessing, programs that are being utilized on computers, and what kind of connections they're making out through the internet. All of that is being actively scanned by your firewall product.
Right.
And that's your first layer. Hey, I'm going to scan all the traffic coming in and outside of my little garden. It's a walled garden. We're going to make sure everything coming in and out is okay first. Then when we get past that, we really get into more of the software-based, software elements, more solution-based. So,
And what is that? When we talk about software, what are we talking about here?
so once you get past the firewall level, we're going to start getting into your servers. Your server themselves are going to associate your user accounts and passwords, file level permissions, and then the overall integrity of your network in terms of its file structure and the way you store data within your organization and the way you manage your computers. That all happens at the server level.
Right.
Once it gets to the server level, the server is going to interface with your firewall product, and it's going to be able to identify when there's traffic going across the organization, where it's actually terminating, meaning which computers it going to, and which users are accessing that data. So we can actually do kind of some very, very high level, even down to minute level, granular content filtering in terms of being able to look at the types of things that people are accessing on the internet and the way they're actually utilizing the internet, and restricting them from doing things they should not be doing at the office potentially, because those can also be mechanisms for getting onto your network. I don't know a whole lot of, remember back in the day, the old online poker sites?
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot of online poker sites that didn't hit you with 50 or 20 pop-ups when you went
No, they wouldn't go away either. You
right,
click, click,
right.
click, click,
and that
click.
used to be the thing, right? So they built the software inside of the browser to say, okay, we're not going to allow these pop-ups. But you know what? Most of those things that are out there on the internet that aren't in the United States for the most part don't necessarily have a full scope or eye on your security of your network. So the most important part is being able to restrict the ability of your employees to access things that they maybe shouldn't be doing on work time.
That are potentially harmful.
Yeah, potentially harmful.
Right.
And obviously it's harmful to you and your bottom line, but it's also potentially harmful to your infrastructure, your network. So that happens with the server interfacing with the firewall.
And then past that, then what do we have after the server?
Yeah. So after we get past the server, there's some cross communication has to happen across your network. It's basically how everything is interconnected. Coming off the firewall into the server, or maybe it's coming directly off the firewall, and then you have this box, but you're going to have another box that's going to be called a switch. In theory, we like to see all of our clients with managed switches. Managed switch, it actually gives us an administrative interface. If you think of the equivalent of having like a surge protector at your house, surge protector plugs into the wall, it's one plug, right? But when it comes off, it breaks out into 6 outlets.
Right.
A switch can be the same concept. It plugs in with one plug, but then it breaks out and there's 24 or 48 ports, On that switch, if it's managed, we have an administrative interface to actually go in there and segregate certain ports on that switch so that they can only be accessed by certain devices, or that only certain traffic can traverse the switch back and forth. This is a managed switch, and this is a physical layer of security with a software element, right? We're able to unplug and replug wires,
Right.
but it still has that software element, so we can go in there and say, hey, let's go ahead and pull these 5 computers and put them on their own network through the switch. We're going to take these 10 things and put them on their own network. A lot of things nowadays, like the Echo Dots, they're the Internet of Things devices. We don't want those on the same network as your corporate network. Let's say we want those on a guest network. We want them isolated from other devices, and that's important too, just because it's another data transmission mechanism.
So let's go back to the house. It's kind of like having bedrooms and rooms in your house.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, you've got bedrooms and rooms in your house. Let's say you've got your office at your house, and it's got important stuff for work. And you know what? You say, hey, I don't want my kids to go in there, so you put a lock on the door.
And that's
Right.
basically
It's the same equivalent. Yeah, putting the lock on the door and saying, hey, you know what? Or just at least notifying the kids, hey, you're not allowed to go in here. They
Right.
don't. A managed switch gives you that ability. An unmanaged switch, which is what you may see, like if you go on Amazon and search for the cheapest 48 port switch you can find, which will probably be about $50.
Right.
That's going to be most likely an unmanaged switch.
And it's
So-
not going to keep people out.
Right, it's not going to keep it doesn't actually keep people out as much as it's more about being able to identify the traffic and segregate the traffic on your network to make sure it ends up where it's supposed to be.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, keep
So
people out.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like a big room,
Right.
one house with one room.
Right. Yeah, or like an interstate. You think about an interstate with 6 lanes. It's better to have an interstate with 6 lanes, and then you can force everybody to stay in the same lane.
Right.
I'm sure during rush hour, as an example, we'd all love to force people to stay in their lane and not jump over left and right and everywhere else.
I'd like to do that.
And so that's what a managed switch allows us to do, is to really kind of isolate portions of the network and manage the traffic going across it.
So then we get down to the endpoint.
Yeah.
Is that where we're going?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we get down to the endpoint, and the endpoint really is going to be access your network one of 2 ways. It's going to go over a wired connection or a wireless connection. Wired connections, plug it into the wall, we rock and roll. one of the things that we like to do with our firewall products, we do it across the board because of secure socket layer traffic, is we will actually deploy security certificates to computers, and that lets it interface with the firewall.
Right.
Nice thing about having that is that if you plug a computer into a wall and you're not supposed to have it plugged in, instantly right off the bat, it's not going to have internet access. The other thing too is that we also like to have physical controls in. If you don't need to have a port in your office hot, we'll call it, doesn't need to be working when they plug a wire in. We like to make sure that it's not hooked up on the switch itself, right?
Yeah.
So these are all physical security controls. The other way that we do this is on wireless. So on wireless, we'll segregate out guest networks from corporate networks, and we can restrict cross traffic, meaning your guest network can't see the traffic on your corporate network, and your corporate network can't see the traffic on the guest network.
That's important.
Yeah, it is. It's very important. You know the security of your organization and what controls you've implemented. But when you have that person coming in to talk to you about the new health insurance plans, or they're coming in to talk with 401k, or giving you a business presentation about their company because they want to partner with you, you don't know the controls they have on their computer.
And I don't know what's on their computer.
Right. You don't know what's on their computer. You don't know anything. And that's important to be able to segregate them from the rest of your corporate network.
Sure.
So those are the two connection mechanisms you have into the network. And then we get down to that endpoint. And that endpoint, it's really important that we want to have a security product there that's going to not only scan actively the traffic going on the network in terms of what's coming in and out of your computer. We also want it to actively scan files that are sitting there in the background, files you're accessing. We want it to actively scan your user interactions too. One of the things that we like with the Sophos product is it has Intercept X. So it's looking for the way you use your computer, patterns over time, things that look out of the norm. So if it starts noticing that you're moving files very rapidly at a pace you shouldn't be moving them or encrypting them, then it starts to isolate that computer off the network and starts to do remediation mechanisms.
So let's go back to the house.
Yeah.
So I'm in the room.
Yep.
There's a bunch of kids in the room.
Yeah.
One of the kids are bad, one of the computers.
Yeah.
So I put them in timeout. That's pretty much what we're saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're in timeout.
Yeah,
So-
you're in timeout, and not only are you in timeout, but we put earmuffs on you and a blindfold so you stuck you in the corner so you
That's it,
can't even
right?
see us. So, and that's really what Intercept X kind of does with Sophos. And really having a good, solid endpoint security platform is important because at the end of the day, going back to the house analogy, let's say you lock your door to your house, you set your alarm, you lock your office door, and you're just hanging out in your office. If there's somebody that was bad that's outside of your house and they want to get in, they're going to get in.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you don't have security. It means that you have all these security controls, you have all these ways to stop them, but it doesn't mean they're not going to get in. And so that's where you run into, okay, now they've made it in. What am I going to do
What
then?
do they do?
Right. And so I could go through all kinds of things, but let's think of like Sophos with Intercept X without getting into anything too crazy. It's just you sitting in the room with a bat.
Yeah.
And you're waiting until that person that has bad intent makes it all the way into your computer, and you're sitting right there with your bat, and you have the full advantage of being able to swing that bat and you get that person out of your house as fast as you can. And so that's really kind of the way we look at security is what happens when we get past all of those different layers, and then we get all the way through the end. Now, the very last part, and I know we're going to run short on time on this, so I'm just going to say this. The very last part is, let's say the worst case scenario, right? That you go in, you swing the bat, and the bat doesn't keep them out. That's where we look at your backups. Your backups are the equivalent of having an exact same life, an exact same house, an exact same replica of every single thing that you own sitting right next door.
And we're just dropping it.
Right, and we just drop it right on top of your old house, and you walk right in the front door like nothing even happened. And so that's really kind of the way that we look at it is how do we stop people from getting in? How do we stop people once they're in? How do we recover you once they've actually made it and they've done the bad things that they shouldn't have done? So all of those layers are really important because the last thing you want to do is rely on that one single layer because that one thing, you lock your front door but you don't have an alarm, it doesn't mean anything that you lock your front door.
Yeah, they kicked the door.
Yeah, you have an alarm, but you didn't lock the front door. Doesn't matter, And so once you start, if you don't look at all of those as one holistic approach and say, hey, I have to look at everything, then you're really just making yourself more vulnerable towards everything.
And that's the way we approach our customers
Right.
is we give them that layered security
Right.
and those options.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we make our recommendations and we'll say this is the layered security approach that we recommend, and this is why. Using the house analogies, I'm probably going to take this video and send it to prospective clients because that's really why we look at it the way we do. It's not that we're here to fearmonger clients. We're not here to talk about the horrible things about ransomware. We want to make sure that you're aware of them. But most important, we want to talk to you about what we can do to make sure that it doesn't affect you and your business. It's your livelihood. And just like we can't mess with your IT security because we're your IT security provider and that's our livelihood, we don't want your business to mess with you. We take it to heart. So.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you. I think we ran over a little bit, but I hope this helped. Make sure to like, comment, share.
Yeah, like, comment, and share. And then if you have questions about any of a layered security approach, anything about this whole series all month, put a comment out online because we want to go ahead and next week we're trying to do a recap, high level, and talk about all the different things we talked about, recap all that, and answer any outstanding questions that are out there.
We'll definitely post that video we were going to show. It's just 2 minutes, but it's really nice to see everything.
That would have definitely put us over.
Yeah, it would have. So
Thank you. Have a good day.
See you next week.
Bye.